in that they are at war with those who call dark, dark, and light, light. Amen? They find it hugely problematic and attempt to shame and silence those who say what God says about sin.
Cancel J.K. Rowling. My God, J.K. Rowling wrote all the Harry Potter books by herself. She sold so many books, the Bible worries about her. And they canceled her because she said in an interview, and this is not exactly what she said, but effectually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as they started calling her a TERF. So I looked it up. TERF is an acronym. Stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist. I'm Team TERF. I agree, man. Gender is a fact. I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those pussies that they got, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's not pussy, but that's like beyond pussy or impossible pussy. You know what I mean? It tastes like pussy, but that's not quite what it is it? It's not blood, that's beet juice.
So comedian Dave Chappelle facing some backlash once again for including jokes about transgender people and the LGBTQ community in a television special. He has a new Netflix special out where he jokes about trans women's looks, about genitalia, tells a story about beating up a lesbian woman. Now Chappelle says that he is Team TERF, T-E-R-F, referencing the term for trans exclusionary radical feminist.
I said what I said, and boy, I heard what you said. My God, how could I not? You said you want a safe working environment at Netflix. Well, it seems like I'm the only one that can't go to the office anymore. I want everyone in this audience to know that even though the media frames this, that it's me versus that community, that is not what it is. Do not blame the LGBTQ community for any of this shit. This has nothing to do with them. It's about corporate interests and what I can say and what I cannot say. To the transgender community, I am more than willing to give you an audience. You will not summon me. I am not bending to anybody's demands. And if you want to meet with me, I'd be more than willing to, but I have some conditions. First of all, you cannot come if you have not watched my special from beginning to end. Am I canceled or not? Then let's go. Thank you very much and good night.
Remember that first clip we watched where Dave Chappelle mentioned J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, and the acronym TERF, which stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist? Well, like Chappelle, Rowling has made herself an enemy of the radical LGBTQ movement with her comments concerning people who identify as transgender. On June 6, 2020, Rowling tweeted this: "People who menstruate? I'm sure there used to be a word for these people. Someone help me out. Womband? Wimpund? Womaned?" Despite facing enormous backlash for this tweet, Rowling doubled down on her position, tweeting, "If sex isn't real, then there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. The idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence, hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences, is a nonsense. I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female, and I do not believe it is hateful to say so." Rowling even had positive words to say regarding Matt Walsh's film, What is a Woman? "And your film did a good job exposing the incoherence of gender identity theory and some of the harms it's done. Many institutions I used to admire have uncritically embraced this dogma, but I reserve my ire for them rather than shouting coward at individual women."
And now Rowling, whose courage on this issue, as I said, I really respect, and I've said that many times, is singing the same tune. But she's completely wrong, of course. And it just shows how feminists who criticize the trans agenda even though they're right about the issue of transgenderism, they're still hamstrung and handicapped by left-wing identity politics and victimology. They can't accept an alliance with a man because they resent us for our perceived privilege, even though it's a privilege they've completely invented in their heads.
So we have J.K. Rowling, probably the most famous author in the world, and Dave Chappelle, arguably the most famous comedian in the world, saying they are on Team TERF. The questions we might ask now is, just how big is this TERF movement? And what does all of this have to do with Christians? As the radical LGBTQ movement continues becoming more and more radical, it seems the TERF movement is growing. Listen to what Bill Maher, another extremely popular comedian, says.
Right. Many people, that's what bothers me to begin with, that there is this is what I call the one true opinion. Very apropos of your religion theme, John. There is the one true opinion, and there isn't. There isn't just one true opinion. I'm a free speech guy. Now, I'm Team Dave, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-trans. We can have two thoughts in our head at the same time. Am I right about that? I hope.
So Bill Maher says he's Team Dave, and like Chappelle and Rowling, Maher has received enormous backlash for his position concerning transgender issues. And there's also Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democratic candidate for President of the United States and has since left the Democratic Party because of how radical it has become.
Because it is the height of hypocrisy that we are in this place today where those who claim to be champions for women and who claim to be feminists are actually denying the objective reality and truth that there are differences between men and women, specifically biological, physiological differences. And that's what these athletes are facing, you know, this kind of crazy hypocrisy and this denial of the truth and reality. The action that the Biden administration is expected to announce today essentially erases the progress that Title IX has brought to women and girls for 50 years, setting us back and pointing out how dangerous it is when we have the most powerful person in this country denying objective reality of the difference between men and women biologically. It basically says that there is no such thing as truth, there is no such thing as women, and we cannot allow that to happen. That's why I'm going there today to stand with these female athletes.
Now, all four of these individuals we've mentioned, Dave Chappelle, J.K. Rowling, Bill Maher, and Tulsi Gabbard, would probably still identify with radical elements of the feminist movement, which means there are still enormous differences between their positions and our Christian position. But what they are saying about the transgender issue is significant because as Christians, we are fighting two battles at the same time. Of course, the most important battle is the battle for the gospel and for biblical truth, and we have absolutely no commonality in this battle with people who say they are part of the TERF movement.
But we understand that there are two opposing realms. There are two opposing worlds, if you will. There are two opposing cosmos identities. There is righteousness and there is unrighteousness. There is light and there is darkness. There is Christ and there is Satan. There are believers and there are non-believers. These two worlds are utterly distinct and they are completely different.
At the same time, however, there is a battle to protect and preserve our civilization and culture. And in this battle, there is room for alliances with people whom we strongly disagree with on other issues. This is why people like Voddie Baucham have become friends with people like James Lindsay, who is an atheist.
Another resource, and I quoted from this resource earlier, New Discourses. Now, New Discourses is curated by an atheist. He's an atheist that I've become friends with. His name is James Lindsay. But James gets this, and James gets it from a theological perspective. James is very familiar with Christian theology, and although he's not a believer, sees very clearly the threat to the church and to Christianity. And so New Discourses, there's an encyclopedia there on the New Discourses website, and you can go and look at the encyclopedia of all the terms, and it's awesome. It's a wonderful resource. They also have a lot of book reviews on the main books and articles and the academic research on critical theory, critical race theory, intersectionality, and critical social justice.
We now live in a world where the extremes of the radical left have led to particular alliances between groups of people who would never otherwise have a common cause. When the radical parts of the LGBTQ movement begin destroying the very definitions of man and woman, there becomes at least some value in working together with people whom we have severe disagreements with to preserve the very foundations of human existence.
There is a war raging right now in the marketplace of ideas, and it's a war that's raging on many fronts. But one of those fronts is on the front of not just marriage, but the idea of biblical manhood and womanhood and marriage. Really a biblical understanding of humanity, what it means to be a man or a woman made in the image of God. More fundamentally, there's an argument about what it means to be a man or a woman. Just let that sink in for a moment. We went from having an argument about, what were acceptable sexual practices to then going to an argument about who are acceptable marriage partners, and now to an argument about what is a male and what is a female, what is a man and what is a woman. And all of that goes to the heart of a simple, singular question. Hath God said? Because if he hasn't, then we are free to have those arguments and those debates and to move the goalposts from time to time. But if God hath said, then we're in trouble. And I believe we are.
Thank you so much for watching into the end. If you'd like this video, hitting the subscribe button helps this channel reach more people with the truth. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement.